G'day everyone and welcome to our podcast, Two Cousins, One Chat. I'm Ben.
And hi, I'm Kristy, and it's great to be back in your ears. I know that sounds weird, but I like it, Ben.
Well, we are in people's ears, basically.
Yeah, we are. And even though we do record and I can see you and you can see me, we can release this as a video, but we like to release it as a podcast.
It's pretty much about the ears, that's right, yeah.
Two cousins, one chat.
We hope everyone's well. How are you going, Kristy?
Yeah, I'm going really good, thanks, Ben. It's good to see you again, and I've had a bit of hay fever, so I wanted to tell you about my hay fever and pink. I think I had a bit of pink eye.
Oh, no.
But, it's all sorted now. But
pink eye is never good.
I swear the hay fever has been so bad in Melbourne. How about you?
Terrible. In fact, one of the places I'm working at the moment, there's a poor lady there who is just sneezing all day. And she's so embarrassed, and she's kind of, not embarrassed, but she's so over it. You know, she's taking tablets and she's sort of removing herself from the office, and I just feel terrible for her. But it's just everywhere, I think. I don't know why, but I think more people are getting it. I don't know.
When I went into Priceline, we're not sponsored by Priceline, but when I went into Priceline, to see the pharmacist there, he said, take a round look at all the shelves. The shelves were empty of stock because there was such bad hay fever. Anyway, he gave me these special eye drops that worked a treat.
Okay.
Because I was scratching my eyes so much and I was actually rubbing away all my eyelashes and eyebrows.
Really? Oh, no.
Oh, Ben, that was so itchy.
You just couldn't stop.
I couldn't stop. You know, when you start rubbing your eyes and then you can't stop and then they water and anyway, I had a combination of eye drops and some sort of antihistamine that knocked it on the head after about a week.
You woke up a week later and felt better.
It's really bad. But yeah, he said it's been really, really terrible. So I tried a couple of different types of eye drops, and one was runny, one was like a gel, and one was like a medicated one. So
just give me everything. I'll try it all.
Squirting everything in, you know. But anyway, all good now. So I hope you haven't got hay fever.
Well, a little bit today, but I'll be okay. We all get it in this house, and we've got antihistamines, eye drops, Nasonex, Fess, you name it. It's all in this house, but that's okay. That's all right. So, you know, hay fever sucks. So anyone out there who's got it, we're sorry. We feel your pain.
Feel your pain, your itchy eyes. But I hope my voice isn't too croaky this morning. Does it sound okay?
It sounds clear as crystal. Why is that?
Because last night I took my niece to see the Taylor Swift Eras concert tour.
Wow. Oh, my gosh, you're part of the Swiftie movement.
Yeah, or Eras as she calls it. We call it Eras, the Eras. So it's a concert recording in LA that was done not so long ago, but it's a concert that she's bringing to Australia that's sold out and no one can get tickets to, right?
Wow. Yeah, no.
So we went to the movie theatre to watch it. I didn't realise, but it's actually start to end the concert. So it goes for like it went for 2 hours and 15 minutes or something, the movie.
So it's just the concert as a movie.
Yeah, so it's filmed over 2 nights in LA and they've mashed it together, but it's unreal. It's really good. I loved it. So we sang the whole, you know, and we were like sang the whole time, dancing in our chairs, throwing popcorn at each other. There was a big theatre and there was probably about 10 people in it.
Really? Oh, I was expecting it to be packed because I've seen footage of these concerts, movies, and people are jumping and singing and dancing. Okay, so it was quite empty. Oh, that's good.
That was a bit empty, but there was one little girl that was dancing down the front. It was super cute, but it was really good. It was great to watch the concert like that, and of course they get right up close, and you can see all the scuff marks on the stage, and you know, her beautiful dresses, outfits that you wouldn't probably see, you know, at the concert, although massive screens, but it was really good. I loved it, and I think there were only 2 songs that I didn't know.
Really? So okay, but would you consider yourself a Taylor Swift fan, or you have got those songs in your head because you just heard them?
No, I am a Taylor Swift fan, and particularly 2 of her albums I had on high rotation through COVID when I was working at home was Folklore and Evermore. They're really different albums that she recorded. And, she's a mastermind. She's an absolute incredible artist and performer, and, she's a magician. She just has everyone kind of hanging on her every word. She's really fantastic. So, I know there's other Taylor Swift docos and videos you can watch online, but I really enjoyed it, and so did Sarah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. So good. That's a nice thing to do, Auntie Kristy.
I know. And going with a 14-year-old who knows so much more about Taylor Swift than I do, she told me about the teenage love triangle.
Oh, dear.
And do you know what that is?
No.
So in one of her albums, in her most, I'm not sure which album it was, might be Folklore Evermore, there's a love triangle. So she's written 3 songs and they're all related, but they're from different perspectives from different people.
Oh, okay.
So one's from a female point of view, one's from a male point of view, and one's from another point of view. I don't know what it is, but I'll have to go back and look into that a bit more. But it's the teenage love triangle.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's deep.
It is deep. So, and then she's written many songs about people. Actually, I need to start the timer, Ben. There you go, Chris.
I know, because we're probably already over time, but that's okay.
Anyway, so she's written many songs about different people and different, times in her life. So she's had something like 17 years of her work history, and then she goes through 10 different eras of her performance,
Oh, okay. So, yeah, right.
So
hence
she's
the name.
Yeah, eras. She goes through 10 different eras.
Wow.
But yeah, it was really, really good. So I did come home last night with a bit of a croaky voice, but it seems to be okay now.
Look, you must have done your vocals, had some Manuka honey, and you're good to go. You're back on.
Yeah. How have you been, Ben? What's been happening in your world?
Look, it's been school holidays, so that's always fun. I mean, I've been working, but I've had a couple of days off here and there, or one day off. And I think we also had a long weekend during the school holidays. So we went away to Harndorf, which is up in the hills, which is a beautiful place. We went out with some friends, and we're going to go back because it was so nice. We're going to go back next year for our annual holiday with those 2 families. And Reed had a cousin stay over, so he was having fun and had a sleepover, and just that's been really good actually. Weather's been a bit all over the place. Now we're talking about hay fever. We might as well talk about weather as well.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Today's pretty cloudy and that, but whatever. That's okay. I don't mind. I'm happy with clouds. You can stay.
Yeah, it's all right.
So we've been good, but I'm excited about today's podcast.
So am I.
Good subject. So before we get into it, why don't we tell our listeners what are we chatting about today, Kristy?
Well, we are chatting about the subject of podcasts. Oh. And if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Once I start, I won't be able to stop. But I love podcasting, and it's something that you and I have got into over the last couple of years. So we thought we would just dig a little bit deeper and have a little bit of a bit of an educational session, kind of, and talk about podcasting, because I find it really interesting, and I'm always being asked about podcasting. Can you help me? People are coming to me, at work or in my private life. People are they want to know. People, it's popular and it's an easy way to listen to stuff that's of interest to you.
That's right.
And then there's so many places to listen to podcasts and variety. So there's a huge variety that whatever your interest is, whether it's comedy, crochet, cooking, doesn't have to start with C. But,
It does help.
But or crime, murder mysteries. There's so many podcasts.
Calisthenics. Anything. Well, that sounds amazing. So how about we get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, Kristy, so you are always getting asked how to start a podcast. As we know, you have another podcast. You have another podcast family, not just this one, through your work at Swinburne University.
Yeah.
So you're a bit of a podcast go-to person. So the idea of today is to actually talk about why we started it and some of the things we've learned and the good and bad and some hot tips, yeah?
Oh, absolutely, Ben. That's exactly right. So not to take away from Two Cousins, One Chat, because this is like the world's best ever podcast, but I do have a podcast at work, and it's called the podcast professionals with Kristy and Ash. So Ash is my boss, and I'm part of the Swinburne Professional Staff Network. And during COVID, the Professional Staff Network were everyone was working at home, so we were sort of missing each other and not seeing each other. So I put forward that we start a podcast just so we can connect and reconnect with our staff that are off-site. And anyway, it took off, and it does really, really well. And we chat to people around campus, amazing professional staff or non-professional staff. And that's how that started. And this is kind of and so 3 years down the track, people know about the podcast at work. So people at Swinburne come to me and ask me, "Oh, can you help me? I want to talk to you about this," or they have ideas, etc. So, and in fact, only last week I spoke to somebody at Swinburne about starting a podcast with alum. So that could be really cool, alumni from Swinburne. Then tomorrow I'm actually testing in the studios at Swinburne with another colleague who wants to start a student podcast.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, so I love being that person that people come to, and it's really nice. And you know what? I'm so not an expert. I've learned along the way. And you just learn by doing.
Absolutely, that's it.
Oh, yeah. So why did we start the podcast, Ben?
Well, look, it was you again. You're one of those people that just bring people together. That's your superpower. So we started it because of you. During COVID, you started to have little sessions with your niece. Cousin, your niece Sarah, and then you were getting family members on, and you and I had a session, and Sarah couldn't make it because she was like watching Taylor Swift videos or doing Taylor Swift scrapbooking or something. I don't know, and
TikTok.
So we had a session and we were like, hey, this is fun. And so then we kicked it off. And it's been nearly 2 years now since we did our podcast. And it's been, the highlight for me has been the fact that you and I have, not reconnected, but we've always been connected. We've always been really close, as we always say to our listeners. But I think, before we might have texted and phoned once every few months, or we might have seen each other once every year or so. Now we're like texting, talking weekly, daily. There's always something to organise. We're talking about the next show or just chatting to see how we're going. And
yeah, that's okay.
And I didn't even go to errors last night. I'm still croaky. I don't know what's wrong with me. But yeah, that's been the highlight for me, has been us really having lots of time to spend together, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah,
so that's for me been amazing.
Yeah. Have a drink, Ben. So that's the reason why we started a podcast. Then we needed to figure out how do you do it? Like, where do you start? It's a really it was kind of a little bit daunting, but what I figured out was before sort of being all strategic and, defining who our audience is or finding, a niche market that nobody else is, working in or recording in that space. It's just like, let's just figure out how to do it and just do it. And then, so pretty much that's how it started for me at work. With the two cousins, one chat, either side of Neil, that was a little bit different because we did basically have a bit of a plan. But figuring out all that, how to start a podcast, is having an idea of, what do you want to talk about? What's the overall what is the overall topic going to be? You're going to have guests on. Is it going to be just you talking, or you and a colleague talking, or cousin? So once we figured out what we wanted to talk about, because like Ben and I knew we had a connection and we could talk about pretty much anything, then we started thinking, okay, well, how can we encourage other people to listen in, and what would be interesting? So thinking about in the beginning, like, what software do you need to use, or how do you record? Is it on Zoom, Teams, or Zencaster, which is what we record on, or there's a whole range of different places you can actually record. And then what do you do with that recording? That comes into your specialty, Ben. But
well, that's Well, I was going to say, I think maybe that sort of information is probably good, that we could tell people. Okay, we'll tell them our setup. Let's tell them I've got a Rode microphone. We use Zencastr as our platform. So Zencastr is a video and recording software, and it's one of the best. There's about 4 or 5 that, if you do your research, you find those 3 or 4 that are the best, and Zencastr is one of those because you can do video. So we're looking at each other right now. That's just so that we can see each other during recording. But it actually picks up the sound as well. So we use an online platform called Zencastr. We have a external camera or internal camera. I've got an external camera, got my Rode microphone, and it all just gets recorded into the laptop. So in terms of setup, you can have a fairly simple setup.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a microphone there that you've had for ages that works a treat.
It is. It works a treat. So when I was first starting out, I didn't know anything about microphones, and that's a whole nother episode. But in fact, I bought this microphone. It's a gaming mic from with a boom arm, so it attached to the desk. I think it was $30 at Kmart. So this is, and this one works really well. I'm looking to upgrade soon. And then I've got a pair of headphones that plug into the laptop, and I just log into the Zencastr link when Ben sets it up. So microphone, headphones, and my camera is actually sitting in my laptop, my MacBook
there you go.
Pro. So
easy.
Yeah. So everyone can use different ways of setup. I know you can't record on your mobile phone, so you can't record on your mobile phone.
It's okay. I'm just blowing my nose, guys, but you won't hear it because I'm going to silence that out.
Oh, I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh,
just keep talking. I'll just pause myself.
Yeah, good on you, Ben. Oh, hilarious. That was a big honk.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. So, yeah, basically that's my setup as well. So, and then the audio video that's being recorded, we can also use it's how we record the Vault.
Absolutely, we record the Vault on Zencastr as well. So, look, it's a fairly simple setup. There's plenty of research you can do, and as Kristy said, we're not experts. And then for editing, we use Audacity, which is completely free and it's amazing. So, again, we're not sponsored by Audacity. Audacity is brilliant, and there's millions of clips on YouTube. If you're having a problem with it, just YouTube it.
Yeah,
so that's our setup.
That's how we learn.
That's how we learn. So why don't we talk about some of the things that we've learned and loved and some of our hot tips when it comes to podcasting?
Yeah. Well, what I've learned is how to stretch myself, like how to learn new software, how to figure out how to do editing. Like you said, you go to YouTube to figure out how to edit or do fade in, fade out, or sound effects. Being creative and learning how to, make it sound a bit more interesting, or figuring out music, what music sounds good. In fact, we're going to be looking for some brand new music for our podcast. We're changing that up as well.
Yes, that's very exciting.
Changing things and trying new things all the time. So, because you're learning so much, what works, what doesn't work, who do we want to chat to? Learning how to have a conversation that's interesting, like having a start, a middle, and an ending, and not just waffling on. That can sometimes be if you don't have a bit of like your show notes. Make sure your show notes and stick to your show notes that have a start, middle, and an ending, and not go on and on and on. You want to keep it interesting and engaging with your audience.
I think that's something that we learned from our first few episodes, was that we were very focused on interviews, which is great because we love having guests on the show, and we've met some amazing people, which we want to tell you about in a moment. And if you've listened to our episodes, you'll know some of the great people we've spoken to. But I think some of our first episodes were too long, and that was some of the feedback that we got from people was that it's great, it's so long. Like some of our episodes were like 55 minutes, and you think, some people do have hour-long, 2-hour. Joe Rogan has like 4-hour-long podcasts. I think I've never listened to one. Don't think I ever will. But they went on a bit long. So what we thought was, okay, we like to have a fairly we're kind of a short podcast kind of podcast duo. We like to have no longer than 40 minutes, which is still fairly long. But if someone's on a bus or on a train, they can listen to half on the way and half on the way back, and they're done. It's not like you have to sit and listen to it for 1 or 2 hours. So that was something that I think we've learned. Or, you know, some early episodes we were cramming 2 interviews in with us in between, and you think, okay, people can't invest for that long. So think about the content, and we're not a podcast that talks about cars every week or movies every week. We have different subjects. So you want to sort of do the highlights of that subject and keep it fairly concise. That's our style. But what's your style? If you're a specialist, you might be able to go on a bit longer. So.
Exactly, yeah. And, you know, and then along the way, you'll get to meet some, like we've been able to meet some really interesting people that we would never, ever have met in our life, like some of the amazing people of Nil that we got to meet, you know.
Exactly.
Like Wendy and
Kat Colbert.
Oh, Kat Colbert, I like to call her, you know, or Melanie, the mayor, the deputy mayor. Yeah,
Koopy. Yeah, well, you knew Koopy, but we got Koopy on the show.
So we got to meet heaps of amazing people there, and then get introduced to some, you know, interesting, you know, things that we would never ever have an idea about. And then also,
and Helen of Nil as well.
Of course, Helen of Nil, who could forget? And then when we started the One Book Club, we found an author, Rachel Lynch, in the UK, and we ended up interviewing Rachel, having her on the podcast, and so you can get to meet some incredible people, and then reaching out to people to ask them would they like to be on your podcast as a guest, like Mike Tomalaris and our and somebody else that we've got coming up. So we've
surprise, but also getting to know people that we already knew. So we had Denise Hoytasek, who's an artist who did the thing that's behind me now, with a beautiful piece of art. But I knew Dee, she's a friend of ours, but to get her on the show and learn about how she got into art and learn a little bit more about her, or Mark Oates, who is a really talented singer and performer here from Adelaide with State Opera, who I've known for 20 years, getting him on the show, and that's helped to reconnect with Mark as well. So sometimes you learn more about people, even having our parents on the show, having those episodes. So but I think meeting new people like Rachel and like Elizabeth Close and Mike Tomalaris and beginning a connection with those people, that's really cool. Yeah, that's lots of fun.
Yeah, and also tapping into your other professional network, like the sports researchers at Swinburne, Casey and Paul and Liv that we've had on recently, talking about really interesting topics about women in sport and pay scale. So we're always learning, and that's one thing that's the beauty of having a podcast. It's not limited to anything. Ben and I can take this podcast wherever we like, and that's the beauty of it. And we've made, if we go back to our first episodes to where we are now, we've made some really significant changes. There's been a name change. There's been a broadening of who we want to talk to, who we want to invite on the podcast. And also we're thinking about, we changed all of our branding, which you might have noticed looks pretty cool. And,
absolutely. And we did a live
recording in Adelaide together. So because we're separate states, we don't always get to see each other. So it's always evolving, and we're always trying to make it better and more interesting. So hopefully this is interesting too for people that do want to start a podcast. All right, time is ticking, Ben. So
it is.
What do you reckon surprised you in starting a podcast?
What surprised me is that I actually really like the engineering side of it. So I like the editing, and I like thinking about the sound. Look, I do get a bit stressy, and I will confess that I'm a bit of a sound stressor. As Kristy will know, I'm always messaging her, the sound was terrible, this happened, that happened. But as I've started to use, and look, there's so many different ways you could engineer the hell out of this podcast, but I use Audacity, as I said. It's really, really good for what we do. And the more I learn about it, the more you learn just really simple tips about, as Kristy said, fade-ins, fade-outs, or silencing one track. Like, for example, this track, I'm coughing a little bit. I had to blow my nose. I'm having a drink of water because I'm a bit croaky. But I'm going to silence all that out so you won't hear all that, even though I'm confessing to you that it's actually happening. So what surprised me is that I'm not really generally a techie person, but I really enjoy the editing, and I like hearing the finished product, and I love having the sound being good quality, and all of that really surprised me. I really like that. Doing the content bit is heaps of fun, and I knew I would love that.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised at how much I enjoy the post-production stuff. What about you?
Well, I also have really enjoyed learning all of these new skills. But another new skill, which is something we haven't even chatted about yet, is the marketing and the promotion post.
Oh yeah, you're amazing at that. Yeah.
Post recording, and nothing can be more of a turn off than really shitty quality audio. So you do an amazing job there, Ben. But the post promoting and marketing and growing an audience and, connecting with the audience and keeping engaged and being consistent. So I love that aspect of things. So you and I are really perfect match when it comes to podcasting, because I love building out all of the marketing and rolling it out, and building up the Facebook or Instagram, or we've built a YouTube channel, upload our videos to that, and editing those, all of the social media tiles, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, looking back at our posts and seeing, oh, that didn't do very well, or that, did well. And then we analyse. We've got a spreadsheet that's got all of our past episodes, what the download numbers are like, and you can see what's worked well and what hasn't worked well. It's really surprising what absolutely nailed it and what just it didn't. So, and then Ben and I will have our strategic planning meetings, very important business meetings.
At weekend offsites.
Yeah, lots of butcher's paper.
Mar-a-Lago, yeah.
So, and what really works well and what doesn't work well. So I love looking at all of that analytic stuff at post record and seeing what happens.
Which is great.
Yeah, and kind of encouraging our listeners to get involved and say, hey, more of this or less of that, or you can kind of gather when people like something. So
yeah, absolutely. And we're always looking to grow our audience. So, if you like us, please share the podcast.
Yeah,
get the link. Yeah. Send it to your friends. Send it to your families, because we're always looking to grow our numbers. So as we draw to a close on this episode, Kristy, how about you tell us, tell us your 2 favourite apps so people can go back.
Really?
Or 1 or 2 of your favourite apps so people can go back and listen. We'll
Okay. Well, that's really interesting, Ben, because this is a question without notice. So
it is.
One of my most favourite apps was the 1980s episode. It was a couple. I don't know. It was this year. It was a couple of episodes back, and I just loved it. The energy was there. It was high energy. It was fun. You and I were just like riffing off each other, and the conversation was excellent. So that was basically one of my most favourite episodes.
And you wore the puffer. In honour of Marty McFly, which was fantastic.
Got a heat rash from that. More ointment.
The things you'll do. Yeah.
I needed more ointment for my heat rash.
Oh, my God. More pink eye.
Yeah. I don't know. And probably one of our first ever ones, because I think we started off with a Christmas special.
Christmas Breakup was our first episode. That's it.
And that was hilarious. So, and the energy was there as well. What about you, Ben?
Oh, look, I have to say the 80s one was a highlight for me. I love You Think You Know Me, But You Don't Know Me. That was fun, things you might not know about me. And then I realised just how many issues I had through that session. And I think some of the chats that we've had have been fantastic. I mean, the Rachel Lynch thing's just funny, because as a funny joke, I bought you a book from an author. I had no idea who this person was at the time, and it was a discounted book at the post office as part of a silly sort of Christmas present. And turns out Rachel Lynch is an amazing author. She's just released 2 more books. She's a prolific writer, and she's a lovely person, and we interviewed her. So I think that was my favourite, just because of how it came about. But we've talked to some really lovely people, and it's been lots of fun. But yeah, I think you and also my last one, I said 2 but 3. I loved doing the quiz with Dad. That was heaps of fun.
That was good. Oh, what about
that was really, really good.
Something that just popped into my mind was talking to Beery about hiding dead bodies in concrete.
Yeah, and how bad. I still have to send him pictures of my concrete because it's so bad. Yeah.
Chatting to Cat Colbert.
Oh my God! So, all right, well, that just about wraps it up. But let's just do 1 tip. your hot tip, and then we'll end, because we're not professionals. We do this. We're not getting paid. No. So unless someone wants to sponsor us or whatever, we're always open for discussions. Yeah. But what's your hot tip, Kristy?
Definitely the hot tip is jump in and just do it. If you want to do it, you've got all these things that are available to you, and don't be scared. And don't worry about what your voice sounds like, because you always think your voice sounds terrible. But just jump in, boots and all, and give it a red hot crack, because it's so much fun, and you just never know who'll be listening. So we're always surprised at who listens and why they listen. And so that would be my advice. Just jump in and give it a go.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, this was a great episode. Good work, Kristy. Great idea. Yeah. Great idea. And I think, have a listen to this, and as Kristy said, just get in and have a go. Even you can just record it and not even release it. So it's not, no one gets hurt. Just have a crack. Absolutely.
Don't want anyone hurt. And remember to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We've even got our Linktree site, which we promoted this week on the socials. So, and if you're listening via Spotify, feel free to comment or rate the pod. It makes it easier for other people to find. And as we always say, thanks so much for listening. And we'll see you next time on
Absolutely.
Two Cousins, One Chat.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.